2 years ago, we first noticed that there was a lack of connection between researchers working in energy and researchers working in development, precisely at a time when I think the British government and a lot of other governments around the world were recognising that energy is perhaps the key dilemma that we're facing at the moment. And so it was really a recognition from a group of us that we needed to kind of break down some barriers between different groups of academia, of different sort of interests within academia, but also to engage the academic community working on these things much more directly with the government departments that are working in this area and the international research community. Because I don't think the UK has been particularly good as in terms of the academic community at actually really getting out there and getting engaged in a lot of these kinds of debates. Maybe on a very kind of technological level it's been a bit better than it has in some of the kind of, I guess, more interdisciplinary approaches. I think that perhaps there has been, certainly in some periods, there's a kind of technological determinism where new technological ideas are generated and kind of exported, and then, oh, funny, people aren't, you know, like a lot of the kind of the cook stove movement. There's a lot of good work being done in the cook stove area, but certainly there are kind of parts of Africa and Latin America are kind of littered with solar cookers and other kind of projects which maybe just haven't been suited to what people the requirements that people really have. So I think it has to be that people are working with on the kind of cultural and social aspects of particularly, for example, I think there's an awful lot of research on new technological directions. There's a lot of research on implementing and kind of social acceptability. What there isn't so much of, perhaps, is looking back over, say, for example, in the case of PV, research that's going back over what are the projects that were implemented 5 to 10 years ago? How successful have they been? How sustainable have they been? What lessons have been learned from them? And I think so, from my perspective, part of what we need, which is what today is all about, is actually trying to address those kinds of issues. What's worked where? So, for example, over dinner last night, I was talking to colleagues from Nicaragua and Bangladesh over PV projects, and in some senses, Bangladesh has been a kind of major achievement. There's something like a million PV systems in individual homes in Bangladesh. In Nicaragua, it's at a much lower level, and I think the level of success has been much less. And I think that's due to the differences in the context in those two cases. So I think it's a good illustration of trying to understand why those differences have occurred and what lessons we can learn from those differences. More than anything, I think that if we're looking to put a lot of money into rolling out new technologies or existing technologies to meet both the low carbon transition targets and the reduction in carbon emissions and meeting the energy access targets, then we need to spend as much money on detailed social research. I'd say that as a social scientist, wouldn't I? But I think it's really important that it doesn't just become another technological fix. And I think there's for example, just listening around the room today and the people we brought together, I think there's a recognition across the board that needs to happen. So I think the key point is, does it happen?